Hello and welcome to the next of our Platform Insight series of interviews. I'm Nicola Hayes at Platform Markets Group, and today I'm delighted to be joined by Caroline Romanski, who is Chief Corporate Officer at Start Campus. Welcome, Caroline.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm delighted to have you join us. Before we go into what you do at Start Campus, what the business does, I'd just like to know a little bit about yourself and your background and how you've ended up in this weird, wonderful world of digital infrastructure.
Great, thank you. So I joined the data center world 2 years ago. Prior to that, I was in investment banking in London, so covering energy sector, doing capital markets and M&A transaction in that sector. When I first heard about the world data center, I didn't even know what that meant. Little did I know which journey this would take me. It's been a fascinating journey. So my background is in finance and now fully into the data center world.
Fantastic. And having that background in energy, I originally, many years ago, came from oil and gas. Mm-hmm. You know, those sectors, actually, when you look at it, are very, very closely related. And a lot of the principles that apply to one apply to another. And as the guys who are filming us know from doing these interviews, I don't think there's been one person we've interviewed that hasn't used that sentence, "I ended up here by accident," which is quite interesting. So when you ended up in the industry, how did that happen?
So I actually met the shareholders of the company I work for today, Start Campus, as you said. Start Campus is backed by Davidson Kempner and Pioneer Point Partners. I had the privilege to work with them in my previous life. They had this project set up a few years before I joined. And the conviction, the love, the passion of the shareholders, and then subsequently of the team at Start Campus that I met when I joined, just convinced me this was the industry to join and the project to work on.
And what was the project you were working on?
Start Campus, developing Europe's largest data center. We have a unique advantage of having a 1.5 GVA grid fully secured, wow, which gives us an amazing competitive advantage. So with that power, we will be developing a 1.2 gigawatt IT campus. Our first building is already operational. We had initially designed it for 14 megawatts, which at the time was already felt huge, big, and even bigger for a market that didn't exist before. Now on the back of customer demand and client leases, we're actually expanding that building to 30 megawatts, so doubling its capacity. So we're in the final stages of delivering that additional space for the clients. And now turning our attention to a second phase of our campus, which will be 180 megawatts. That's our CNO2 building, which is the next exciting chapter in our story.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just, the figures are enormous. You know, even 5-6 years ago, and certainly when you look back to when I started off in this industry, where you talk in the 3s and 5s. I mean, it is just absolutely mind-blowing. You have an investment background, so you're very well versed in all of those areas. What do you think has made it exciting, your project, in terms of that capital investment going in, and why do you think people are getting very excited about it?
And it's very relevant because our first building was mostly developed speculatively, so through equity invested by our shareholders. So I think it was the vision and the conviction. Start Campus was initially set up on the back of a large screening exercise, taking all sites in Europe which had features which were good for a data center. But most importantly, which could be located at or nearby decommissioned power plants. And the thesis that was developed at the time was to say there is potential to reuse that infrastructure. So, which is what we're doing with our seawater cooling, effectively reusing an intake and outtake channels from an old coal-fired power plant to have a system to cool the data center. So to your point, I think it was the vision and the conviction that Portugal would emerge as an AI hub, even though AI wasn't even 2 years ago such a big thing. And it was the sustainability embedded in the project.
And the fact that this was speculative is all the more extraordinary, because investor sentiment, if you go back 6-7 years, speculative build was quite the norm, because the demand was there, it was growing, and so, build it and you will get a client, and lots of money was going in. That isn't the case anymore. Without a key anchor tenant, without a pipeline, it is very, very difficult to get that financing. So well done. I mean, that's extraordinary.
Thank you.
I want to talk to you a bit about the seawater cooling, because certainly in the UK and across Europe in general and the States, we've obviously heard about, energy usage and bad PR about the amount of electricity and unsustainable practices, et cetera, et cetera. Water has started to come to the forefront. Nobody's worried about water until now. Nobody's even thought about water. And then all of a sudden, we're ignoring energy and it's all about the water. So talk us through the practicalities of seawater cooling.
Okay, that's a very good question and a topic we could cover for many hours. It's a fascinating, the technology, as I said, we're using has been used by many industry before, including the power industry, as well as in other data center, although at a smaller scale. The principle is fairly simple. The volume of water comes in, drawn from the sea, passes through a heat exchanger, which cools a closed loop system of industrial water, and then rejects the exact same volume of water back into the ocean. For anyone who has been to Portugal before, they would know the ocean is extremely cold. It's definitely much colder than the water we have here in Antibes.
I'll just stop you there. I went on holiday there as a teenager and I thought it was going to be the Mediterranean.
Exactly. So, and it's not. It's a very different. But equally, this is what we harness. We harness the cooling power of the ocean, which makes the project quite unique. And it's a substantial piece of infrastructure we need to build. As I said, we're reusing part of the intake and outtake channel, but there is still a big heat exchanger building that we'll be setting up for the rest of the campus. This is quite unique because it allows us to achieve a WE, water usage effectiveness of 0, which, as you said, today people are not really focused on water consumption behind data centers, even though you see there and there a few articles saying how ChatGPT is thirsty. But I think this topic will become on the forefront of minds.
I think this time next year, we won't be having a workshop on energy efficiency. We will be having a workshop on water efficiency.
I believe so as well. And the beyond sustainability is also efficiency. This system allows to consume much less power, which obviously is not only sustainable, but it also something we can offer to our customers through lower cost to operate. And when you talk about big loads, any changes on OPEX make a huge difference.
Absolutely. Why are more people not utilising this?
Exactly because, as I said, the technology is very difficult to deploy. It's a massive piece of infrastructure. First, probably because there is not infrastructure to be reused available, although we've seen other data center operator looking at those decommissioned power plants, including in the US, to try and utilize the existing infrastructure. It's fairly complex to deploy, and I think that's one of the reasons. The second is probably perception. I think there is a misconception, and I must say, when I first visited the site, that was one of my misunderstandings. Seawater is actually not flowing in the data center. It's just coming out through a heat exchanger, which has been worked and is designed to take on seawater, so there is no risk of corrosion. Do you think people have visions
of it coming in, and there's
fishes
think so. And sharks running around
exactly,
the surface?
And a transparent tube where you can see
and the slide going. You know what? I think I've just come up with a brand new business idea.
Exactly.
It does. I can see that perception idea.
Yes. But when you see it and when you realize, the benefits and how how effective it is, I think it's a very...
So over the long term, I know it's a huge capital investment and the technology, and you have to have that existing infrastructure that's decommissioned available, which is quite a big piece to try and find. Over the long term nature, is the payback on that, quite aside from the environmental, obviously, opportunities that are there, is the financial payback there over the long term?
So the way we look at it is exactly the same as power infrastructure. This is an infraco, holding our power and water in assets, and we look at it exactly the same way. For us, so the payback is exactly the same. We think about it as the power.
So you've got plans for expansion. Will you move outside of your current territories? You're looking actively at the moment for other areas that you can replicate?
Focus is at the moment on CNSDC. We have already a 1.2 gigawatt site to play with. It's not small, so it gives us a lot of runway to do amazing things. We've obviously been looking at other jurisdictions, but of course we're also very highly selective We believe, ticking all the boxes is difficult. Is it becoming increasingly difficult? But we are definitely looking in different stages of development on a few other plots.
Yeah, no, it sounds absolutely fascinating. I said, I can't wait to come and see it. It's just one of those things that when anything is new and someone is doing something that you sit and go, well, why on earth are other people not doing this? This seems like an absolute no-brainer.
Yeah.
What other issues do you see that you're addressing via this in terms of all of the things that we were at a conference at the moment and all of the topics that have been on the agenda?
Yeah.
What other issues is the way that Start Campus is approaching the design? I mean, it comes back to the design, doesn't it?
Yes.
The way you're approaching design, what other issues are you actually addressing within that?
So I would say it's the design. We have always planned and designed the data center to be AI ready. So it's striking the good balance between over-speccing a data center and under-speccing it. I think there's lots of difficulty in financial capital, which is at risk by doing both strategies. And I think we've been designing the data center with enough flexibility. So although it's not a modular, we hear a lot about modular design these days. The building is a real building, is not built out of tents or stacks, but the inside is very flexible. And this is what allowed us to essentially, as I was saying, expand the capacity of the building, which the four walls haven't moved. Yeah. We're just shifting what's inside to densify the space. So,
and I think that's key. And again, listening to the investors, listening to the operators, that being able, because our industry moves so quickly and topics that nobody was even talking about last year are suddenly high up on the agenda. We don't know what's coming the next 12 months. So certainly from everything I'm hearing is that ability to be able to flex, to be able to quickly change. And that comes from that initial design and building for future changes and future disruptive technologies right from the get-go.
Yes. And it was what Ash from Google highlighted yesterday in the panel I shared with him, is the optionality. Customers want optionality, and that's what data center operators like us need to offer.
Well, I am absolutely fascinated by what you're doing. I said I can't wait to come over to Portugal and come and see what you're doing. And Caroline, thank you so much for sitting down and speaking to me today.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, listeners. I will see you in our next interview. Thank you very much.